welcome back to my channel. Today is a very special video because we are at 100 subscribers. As of today, we are at 107 subscribers, but last night we reached 100, which is a big milestone for me. It may seem small for some, which I understand, but for me it's really big because, especially because I have grown in such a short amount of time. It's been 12 days since I posted my first YouTube video, and I'm glad creators are liking it and enjoying what I have to say. Special thanks you to Lord Juno from placeholder/notbound for being my 100th subscriber. Thank you very much. I hope you like being in this video. Hi, Editor here. I wanted to say I'm sorry if I tweaked some of the answers, but I am leaving them on the screen while I read them for you to see how the actual creator who wrote them said what they said. And I also want to say I'm sorry if I stumble upon my words sometimes. It's just that English is not my first language. So yeah, I just wanted to say I'm sorry about those two things. Thank you, keep on watching, bye. So yeah, let's get started. Today I wanted to do something a bit more special. Instead of speaking and talking about my experiences, I wanted to ask you about your experiences. That's why I made a post on Tumblr asking creators and creatures a few questions. They could choose between each one of them, or they could answer all of them. I just organized some of the answers to read them out loud today. I couldn't fit all of them because there were many of them, and some of them were very long, but I tried to include most of them. So let's get started, shall we? I have my phone right here with some information, so I can read out loud some of the answers. Let's see. Give a second. Okay. The first part of the video will be all about what it actually feels like to be an older human in any way you can think of. Spiritually, mentally, physically, I don't know, in any way you can think of. I ask creators what it means to them and how it feels. So, the first comment is from Max from Star Trek Official. They say, I won't go into detail about all of them, but the stereotype that tends to show up the most is my crow-avian humanoid type. Essentially, human with wings with bird. Essentially, human with bird legs, wings, and talons, with a slightly modified body for gliding, not flying. Physically, my tail, feathers, and wings show up a lot. Spiritually and instinctively, I want to perch on things all the time, and often find myself yearning for the sky and the wind under my wings. Despite that, I actually hate roller coasters. That's fair. Roller coasters are scary. Overall, I feel very birdy, and my connection to crows increases tenfold during these shifts. See, this is something I find interesting because I don't get fandom shifts myself. I don't know what they feel like. So I'm constantly asking other older humans to share their experiences with me. I also understand the feeling of yearning for something very specific, like I yearn for the ocean the way Max yearns for the sky. I think that's cool. I think that's something that we have in common, even if it's not the same thing. On the same note about feelings, Peridot says, my main stereotype is spider. I am most connected to tarantulas, but I am a spider therian, which means they are like the whole species of spiders, if you didn't know what therian means. Emotionally, it causes me to be pretty easy to trigger, if that makes sense. I am not aggressive, but I am quick to alert to potential threats. I am also not afraid to fight if cornered, but prefer to not actually harm other beings, especially similar to how spiders are more likely to try to leave a dangerous situation before they attack a threat. I understand that completely. I have a deer stereotype, which is always alert on most situations. It's almost like trying to keep me safe. The deer stereotype is the one that is always making me evaluate the situations I'm in to try and keep me safe. It also says, I get fandom shifts of mandibles, extra legs, and extra eyes. They obviously do not have vision, but I can feel them moving. I feel like I have enhanced perception of the world around us. I do not rely on vision as much as vibes as I describe it. The energy of inner room, the combination of sounds, vibrations, to paint a proper picture of my surroundings, and if I feel safe there. I am also very drawn to bugs. Bugs moving immediately catch my attention. I do not eat them, but love learning about them and immediately give them all my attention. And immediately give all my attention to them when I do see them. This also shows how stereotypes can affect how we react to the world, not just how we see ourselves. And I think that's really important to notice. It can affect every aspect of our life. I think I relate to this, not as much because I get caught up on bugs or insects, but mostly because I get drawn to certain wild berries or certain fish or the way they move or certain kind of prey, small prey. When they move or when I'm watching them on a documentary or stuff, I get it really catches up my attention. So I sort of relate in that sense as well. Lastly, in this section, many eyed cryptid says, so I'm a shapeshifter. I typically take the form of an anthropomorphic bird made of shadow, with several pairs of eyes on my face. Although when I get super nervous, they pop up everywhere. When I'm in the dark, especially when I'm alone, I start feeling porous, like like the darkness ebbs and flows through the membrane of my skin. It's not like I lose my sense of separation entirely. Maybe I could compare it to a hug, like you know where you end and your friend begins. But for that moment, you are intertwined. Whenever I look at dark blue LED lights in the dark, it's almost an instant shift trigger. It reminds me so much of that moonlight forest vibe that it's really hard to resist. I also get strong phantom limbs and sometimes phantom limb pains. I find this one particularly interesting. Um, this is kind of this kind of experiences is harder to explain, but you can still feel how real and raw it is. It is also a great example of how certain feelings or environments can trigger shifts of all kinds. That happens to me a lot as well. For example, if I'm running through the forest, I get really strong mental focus shifts. Or if I'm driving around with the windows down and listening to music for some reason I don't know, I get really strong mental dog shifts. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to learn about other beings' experiences. So thank you so much for participating. Now, the next answer is about discovering your therianthropy. It's the only one in this section because I didn't want to focus really on that. Because I thought it will be richer to focus on the rest of the questions. But this one caught my attention. So I want to share this experience from Tex Wolf Dog. They say, my main stereotype is a wolf dog. I always had a spiritual connection with nature throughout my life. As a kid, animals and nature felt like a second home. I always felt like I could communicate with animals without words. Even my mom noticed. I used to walk on all fours more than on two legs, not because I thought I was an animal, but because it felt more natural. When I was around 9 or 10, I found the therian community online, and something clicked. The tale and ear sensation, sensations, the dreams, the urges, the connection to wildlife. Everything finally made sense. For me, therianthropy is deeply spiritual. I'm still figuring it out. But I know there's something non human about me, something tied to the universe and its mysteries. I feel this one in my soul. I have always had a, a deep connection to nature and animals, and I do mostly feel my therianthropy in a spiritual level. I also find it fascinating how young you found yourself. That's super dope. I wish I had found myself when I was that young. But then again, I don't think my therianthropy has formed until my adult life, which is interesting. I want to talk about that in a future YouTube video. I just have to do a lot of introspection about it first. Section 3 of this video will be all about misconceptions and misunderstandings about our identities. Again, Peridot says, as a spider therian, it is difficult. Outside the community there is so much casual hate. People torture spiders, call them disgusting, laugh about harming them. Even though most are harmless and even dangerous ones don't seek out humans. They only defend themselves, their homes, or their young. Within the community, I sometimes feel less valid than people with cuter stereotypes. I am scared of showing images of my species or talking about my experiences in case I trade phobias or get called weird. But I am proud of my kin type. I have accepted that not everyone will understand. This part is really important as well as the other bars, obviously. But I like this one because it shows how much outside perception can affect someone's comfort in expressing themselves, and that sucks. Creatures shouldn't have to feel less valued or less beautiful for who they are, especially with stereotypes that people are taught to fear instead of respect. We should be more accepting. We should be more respectful. And if you have phobias, that's okay. You don't get to choose your phobias, obviously, but you do get to choose who you respect and who you don't. And I think it's important to treat everyone with respect. Lastly, Tex Wolfdog says, I think, people think I bark at others, bite people, or act wild in public. But I'm an adult functioning in human society. Most of those behaviors come from younger people still figuring themselves out. I understand the importance of blending in and living in the world as it is. I think this one is the most common stereotype humans have about our community. There's a difference between internal identity and external behavior. I do get urges to bark or act in a more animalistic way, but I'm also an adult. I have a normal human life that I perform for apart from my identity. I know I need to act completely human for the people around me. I have learned to do so, and I understand most younger creatures cannot control the urges they feel or haven't learned yet how to perform for the human eye. And that's okay. What is not okay is to spread misinformation about who we are and how we act. Before I go, and before I wrap things up, I wanted to share this bit from Many I Cryptid, um, and I will tell you why after I read this bit. I wish there was more recognition for trauma-based identities. I'm a shapeshifter because I never formed a stable identity when I was little. I live in a dissociated haze. So I became something adaptable, something that could exist without a fixed form. That's why I describe myself as a whole cut out of reality. I am also very hypervigilant, which is where the eyes come from, and why they multiply when I am overwhelmed. I think it's important to add this one because we don't see many information about trauma-based identity. It's true. And it is just as valid as any other type of identity. Doesn't matter how it's formed, we'll experience non-humanity. We'll experience our non-humanity identity in different ways and need to lift each other up and make our voices heard. That's the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place. I think we need more voices to be heard in our community. I think videos like this matter because they show the full range of this community. Not only the beautiful parts you often see online, but also the raw, uncomfortable, complex parts about it. These are just a few of our community experiences, and you can clearly see how different they are from each other. There isn't one way to be therian or alterhuman. We are all we are all diverse, and that's something beautiful. Thank you everyone who shared their experiences. I'm sorry for I'm sorry for the ones that I couldn't put on this video, but I want you to know that I read all of them and I carried them deeply in my heart. Thank you so much for participating, and thank you so much for 800 subscribers. I hope we keep on growing because I think videos like this sharing our experiences, especially me as an adult, are really important for our community. Thank you so much again, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!